One and
Good evening. You're flying with Pod Squadron podcast. All wings report in. This is Andy, Pod Job, standing by.
This is Tracy, Pod Tracer, standing by.
This is Dayla, Pied Piper, standing by.
Yay!
All ships to attack formation. Mission objectives to talk about Star Wars in movies, streaming, animation, books, themed experiences, and your art and inspiration from the galaxy far, far away. But today's flight plan includes, well, a couple of Star Wars headlines of news that have popped up, and of course, Ahsoka Episode 5, The Shadow Warrior. And for all of you out there, all comm channels are open. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Find us on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you know when we have new content. But first, I'll be your squad leader for today. I'm Andy Lowe, aka the Chinese Pirate, director, storyteller, puppeteer, performer, and fight choreographer. On my wing, as always, is Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy, aka Hot Nerd Girl, mother to many animals, and sometimes I do nerdy things.
And joining me on my other wing is Allison de la Cruz.
What's up, everybody? I'm Allison, or Dayla. I am bi-celestial, and I'm so happy to be back at the Pod Squadron to talk about my favorite wars in the stars.
Good.
And of course, we are just one squad in the fleet. We're part of the Geekish Network. That's right here on YouTube and on Facebook. Check out all the other great shows. We'll also be joined by Geek Beast later on at the end of the show. We'll do a little crosstalk. S-foils to attack positions. We're going in. All right.
Pew, 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 pew.
So I'm going to try and go quick through news because I'm sure we have a lot to talk about with this episode of Ahsoka. Let's get to item one. Tracy, do you wanna drop this first story? Let's get to.
Oh, I don't know what that voice was. Was there a voice?
I think I had an echo.
Oh, is that what that was? I was like really excited, and then all of a sudden I was like, I had nowhere for my energy to go. Okay, so this is very exciting because I'm a big Donald Glover fan. But news broke in July that Donald and Stephen Glover had been tapped by Disney and Lucasfilm to replace Justin Simeon as the writers of the new Lando television series. But wait, there's more. The project is actually being developed into a movie, which Lucasfilm has confirmed to Variety. And as we all know, Glover debuted as like the world's most perfect young Lando Calrissian in the 2017 Star Wars movie Solo, which was a box office disappointment, but I still very much enjoyed it. So
even with the
Glover,
frustrating naming convention, I still enjoy it.
You know, it has its place in the Star Wars universe. And
agreed.
all the actors in it are so good, and I actually really like the storyline, but I'm a lover, not a hater. So Stephen Glover first dropped the news of a Lando movie on a recent appearance on the Pablo Torre Find Out podcast, telling the host it's not even a show. The idea right now is to do a movie. Right now, because of the strike, it's kind of like telephone, all the information, and that's all the information that he could provide. But Lucasfilm did then confirm that afterwards. So, well, I don't know. Do you want me to say the rest of this? News first broke of
covers it.
It covers it, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, we can't say
no
it's
Billy
kind
D.
of a
Williams
bummer.
played the OG.
Yes, and you know, we can say it is kind of a bummer that Justin Simeon literally found out that he was no longer developing this show on Twitter or whatever it is, X. On one of the social media platforms. So that kind of
the one I X'd out.
Yes, exactly. The dead bird, as it were. But I am, you know, I find it really interesting. Of course, this is probably more results of everyone trying to figure out what the heck to do with streaming, right? Because this is the thing, is that they've discovered that the subscriptions don't increase, the revenue doesn't increase. So you can have a great show, but it's not going to make any more money on streaming platforms. So stuff is getting pushed back out onto broadcast. Stuff is turning back into a movie because they're trying to find ways to monetize things again. It's kind of fascinating, but hopefully what that means is
that why I just read that, like, I still haven't seen it, and I don't know that I will, but apparently Suits is making a big comeback on Netflix, and of the 25, this is all part of the strike, but like of the 25 writers on the show has been downloaded 3 billion times on Netflix, and between the 25 writers, they've only been paid $3,000 that they have to split.
Yep. That is exactly aligned with all of the reasons why the strike is happening and all these new questions. Because people are just asking, 3 billion downloads, what?
And that's the thing, right? They're not getting paid anymore. I mean, I think we did talk about a couple of weeks ago how there are some shows that are now actually getting broadcast. They were made for streaming platforms, and they are now pushing those out to commercial broadcast. And no one knows if they're getting paid because the contracts were not made for broadcast. So there's no residuals or anything built into those contracts. It's work for, you know, so that's the thing, right? People are continuing to try and find ways to make money off of people's work without them being compensated, which is to say, once again, of course, just a reminder, there's a strike going on. There are multiple strikes going on, and every day it seems like there's a new strike. So
I know I bring it up every week, but I just want to support.
Right. Oh, United Auto Workers just started striking on Friday.
The latest.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's actually, and it's the first time they are striking against all three big three at the same time. So it's pretty intense. I did hear that. Yeah. But of course, the writers and the SAG strike is still ongoing. And of course, we are here because we appreciate their work, not because someone happens to own the IP that they're working with. So please support the actors and writers. Next,
wait, one more thing about the strike. Yes. Did you hear that John Oliver is doing stand-up just so that he can pay his writers so they can keep striking? I just wanted to throw that out there.
And there are some folks who have continue to do their talk
I
shows.
was trying not to mention names, but yes.
He
Yeah, screw you, Bill Maher.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
But
that
Drew,
guy.
I mean, the other thing,
I-
can I say the other thing is that Drew Barrymore withdrew, right? She
Yeah,
was
she
about to
did.
come back, and then Rosie
She
O'Donnell was like,
withdrew.
"Ha ha!" She did.
But yes, so I'm glad she did. She
And
did
it's-
relent, and
Yeah.
yes.
I'm gonna stop because I can keep
okay.
going.
We can always keep going. Next item of business. So there's been a lot of Disney buzz of late. Of course, there last week was Star Wars Celebration 2023 down in Orlando, and they announced a number of projects in development. And then, of course, there has been a good deal of interesting buzz for Anaheim this week because they just went before the city council and did a whole environmental impact, 17,000 pages of environmental impact to propose things that they maybe possibly could do in park expansions in the Anaheim Resort. And a lot of things that seem to be written in code, like, you know, they seem to imply expansions of the two parks they have, but when you look at it, it could be actually a third gate that it's split up amongst three different parcels and connected by monorails.
A third gate?
Yeah, a third park. This is total
Oh.
speculation, right? So this is
Does gate mean
no one
park
has said-
in
yes,
Disney speak?
It's in Disney.
Oh.
When you refer to a gate, it's an entrance, right? And of course,
Oh, okay.
you know, as much as everyone is like, oh yeah, they want to be able to expand or add more rides, like actually they don't. What they want is to get people to psychologically believe it's worthwhile to have more hotel stays. So if you can turn showing up for 2 days to go to two parks, or 1 day and try and hop between two parks, to, oh, I want to see everything, I gotta stay in a hotel and eat in all the restaurants and hang out more and be more relaxed because I want to make it to all three parks, then you get longer hotel stays, right? So what it's looking like, of course, there's not a lot of available land around because everything is already residential or other stuff. But when they since they announced the possibility of creating guest conveyance ideas that could be themed conveyance, which could refer to connecting locations with monorails and with people movers and with sky rides.
Kind of like the Hogwarts Express in Orlando.
Exactly, right? So
Or
that
is
at which
it
point,
like, can I say, is it like the old-fashioned train, railroad around the park?
I mean, it is,
The
right?
dioramas, right?
The only difference is that they can transport you from one location to the next, and basically, as we've discovered with Galactic Star Cruiser, they can create video. Also, actually, with the Hogwarts Express, where they can create basically immersive buses or other things that make you feel like you're just flying through space or through magical realms, when in actuality you're going over a parking lot across the street to another location, right? So that's kind of interesting. We'll see if I'm right about that. Again, that's pure speculation. But yeah, there's a lot out there. The other thing, of course, that they did announce that there are more Star Tours missions coming to the parks. I believe in 2024. This is for the Star Tours in both Florida and Anaheim, as well as in Paris, not Japan for some reason. But they are announcing that they are going to have new planets and destinations that are inspired by the Ahsoka series, which I'm just saying, I want to ride with the Purgle.
Yes. Wait, have they already added Mandalorian to it?
They have not. I think the last new missions they added were all for the sequel trilogy. So they had some like Kylo Ren stuff, some Rey and Finn stuff, as well as old Billy D. Williams, calling everyone to Exegol. So
Lexi kind of called it last week, right? Didn't she? she's like, yeah, it looks like that Purgle, like, you know, when they were flying next to the Purgles.
Yeah.
She kind of said like, oh, this would be great for a Star Tours. And then now, yeah, it comes out. And it's like, I think Tracy's in shock. She's in perpetual shock.
She's frozen in shock. Yes. Very exciting stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more announcements as that comes up, and we'll see what happens, because you know Disney's talking very big about a lot of stuff, but we also know they don't have any money. So well, I don't know. I mean, they have enough money to pay Bob Iger, but
but that's all, right?
That's
Only
all.
Bob Iger.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, actually there's some crazy rumors there that Disney is possibly up for sale to Apple right now, which is like crazy.
Wow.
And hopefully it is someone like Apple that would retain it as opposed to sell off all the different parts.
For sure.
But that's a whole other discussion. Okay, so should I stall more until Tracy reappears magically, or should we get into this? I think we should get into this.
I agree. Maybe just at least jump into like some of the plot of the week and like all the big things we got to see.
So Allison, do you want to try and give us a quick synopsis of what happened this week in the story?
Oh, this is a fun game. For sure. So Ahsoka confronts her past while Hera and the allies undertake a rescue mission. When we left them at the end of episode 4, Hera and Carson Teva and the Squadron were at Satos. They were trying to stop the Eye of Sion from flying away. And so we're seeing, we get to see the start of this episode. They're doing kind of recon on the planet. Jason is there. And he and Chopper get some adventure in terms of trying to look around and piece together what's happening. We don't know where Huyang is, and then we find him holding the helmet of Sabine, just kind of like, they didn't listen to me. No one listens to me. So we got a little bit of that. And then really a lot of the episode is flipping back and forth between what's happening on Cetos as Hera and the team are trying to locate Ahsoka and Sabine. And then we get this beautiful experience in the world between worlds with Ahsoka. And what we were teased with was Anakin Skywalker showing up, right? And lots of theories about, is it her force projection? Is it him? Is it the good part of him? All those things. So we get a lot of Ahsoka and Anakin in the world between worlds. We get some amazing flashbacks into the Clone Wars. We see some progressions there. And then we also get to experience and discover this bridge. And Jason is showing us that he's force sensitive, force aware, and he's able to help his mom listen and hear the lightsabers in the water, in the waves. And the episode ends as Ahsoka emerges out of the world between worlds with all the lessons I'm sure we're going to talk about. And she gets a chance to talk to the Purgle, and we get an amazing Pinocchio, Jonah the Whale story. Just in time for, you know, the New Republic's fleet to show up and try to scold them, and be like, you know, Hera broke the rules. What are you guys doing? And Carson Table's like, so I'm going to tell you this story. I don't know that you're going to believe me. And then 30 seconds later, hey, look, here's the whales. You believe me now? So that's my little short rendition of what happened.
Very well done. Excellently done.
I didn't hear most of it, but I heard the end of it. So yay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you covered all the major beats. We'll get into the themes of it all now. Yeah, so this was a very cool episode. Of course, returning to the world between worlds. And getting to see Hayden Christensen kind of redeem his take on Anakin here, and definitely building upon both what he did as a young man as well as all of Matt Lanter's work on Clone Wars and on Rebels. What are some stuff that you loved about seeing Anakin / Vader?
I could jump here.
Yeah.
I will say I have never been a fan of the Anakin redemption arc, except in the original trilogy when I didn't know all the evil things he had done. But the prequels, I am part of the squad of people who was like, ugh, whiny teenager boy, I don't get it. Even the Clone Wars
Sand's
arc,
not that bad.
yeah, I was like, oh my God. And so for me, this episode was interesting because I really feel like, okay, I could see Anakin's larger purpose to balancing the Force.
Sure.
I can see his trajectory. And kind of as we said in the prep, like my big question is Ahsoka has been known for saying, I am no Jedi. And here she is engaged in Jedi practice, engaged in the Force in a way. And I know that I feel like in Rebels, when we leave kind of Rebels, I feel like I've heard something that she spent time in the world between worlds and the animated portion of Star Wars. So I just felt like this gave us a chance to really see what happens when you're in a place that is allowing you to process out your parts
Yeah.
of your journey to make you the person, to allow you to become the leader you want to be. And so for me, yeah, the redemption of Anakin, seeing him have all the turns, appreciating, the times when the lightsabers would change, like just being like, oh, now he's in this part of his body, now that he's in this part of his spirit, now he's, and I didn't need to see him in the Vader gear. I just needed to see the yellow eyes of anger
Yeah.
to get that. And then also I think for me, it's like in understanding their arc in the Clone Wars, because she walks away from him, because she walks away after the Jedi Council reinstates her, and she's like, nah, you didn't believe me, I'm good. We didn't get to see how they would work it out. So for me, it was really exciting to discover who Anakin was as a teacher and
Yeah.
accept it in this box of the war between the world, not the war, the world between worlds gives us ways to explore these character arcs for people aligned with the experiences we've seen, but also to see it from, this for me, it was all, this is what Ahsoka, to me, I don't know, I've heard some theories that, and I don't know if you all think this, is Anakin in this world between worlds a representation of the brother and the whole Mortis God Force thing? Or is it just her projection and what her psyche needs? Like, is she in a coma and she's working it out before she wakes up in the water?
Yeah, I love all that, and I do feel like there's a very Dave Filoni purposeful ambiguity of him not wanting to kind of confirm anything about the world between worlds. So it could be the world between worlds. It could be just her in her headspace. It could actually be Anakin reaching out as a Force ghost, or it could be some part of her psyche manifesting as Anakin. How about you, Tracy? What are some things that you loved about this presentation?
It's hard for me to think that it was just in her psyche because Jason could hear the lightsaber sounds.
Sure.
But in my and I've said this before, that the Clone Wars helped me appreciate the prequels as a stepping stone in the story in a way that I hadn't before the Clone Wars existed. I appreciated the character arc of Anakin so much more. And really, I mean, of Obi-Wan as well. But I felt like it wasn't so much how Anakin necessarily was as a teacher himself, so much as how she perceived him as her teacher and her mentor. Because there were things that he was saying, like when he said, when she said, well, what if I don't want to fight anymore? And he said, you'll die. Like, I don't feel like that's something that Anakin himself would have said to her, so much as her own struggle within her head. And I feel like the world between worlds is almost like the psychologists for Jedi. Like it's when they're in their deepest, darkest need, they can get pulled into this place where they can work out all this psychological trauma that they have. And whether or not people can actually exist there, so, you know, such as like a Force ghost or something. I don't know. Maybe Dave Filoni will fill us in on that later. If nothing else, it serves, it kind of goes along with the Force, maybe pre-midichlorians of this sort of mysticism that surrounds the Jedi, which, you know, we see. I love when we see normal non-Jet Force sensitive people's reaction to that, like calling them space wizards or not even believing that it's real, or, you know, even Carson Teva when Hera says Jason, you know, or no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Hera, it was Huyang said Jason has abilities, and he was like, all right. And just like walked away, like, whatever. Like, that was probably my favorite part. I laughed out loud. So anyway, you know, that's kind of where I was with it. But the phasing back and forth between Anakin and Darth Vader, I thought they did that so brilliantly. I just loved it. And the clone troopers would disappear, and like you know, his eyes, and then he'd fade back, and he had that sheepish smile, and it was just like, perfect.
So there's a couple of things that you said I want to comment on. So one thing, yeah, you know, I mean, this is something that I've really actually appreciated. You know, I know people have been concerned about the pacing, and this was something I was always kind of like, I was waiting for those comments to come, because I've seen enough of Dave Filoni's work, and I know how much of a lover of Kurosawa that he is, that I was expecting, you know, even when people were kind of complaining about like the pauses between dialogue, and I'm like, yeah, this is not Sorkin quick dialogue. These are people thoughtfully thinking about how they respond to things, and that is very much a stylistic choice. That, you know, he wants you to wait, he wants you to think about what's happening, and he's done a really great job, I think. Again, as someone who has seen all of this other media of Rebels and Clone Wars and some of the novels and stuff like that, I still think there is plenty here for anyone to catch up without having seen anything. Yeah. Whether you're using Carson Teva as an everyman character to catch up with all the magical and crazy mythological things happening, or you're using Huyang as a know-it-all exposition dump, right? Or, you know, it's like there are plenty of points in, and again, I think it still contributes to the heart of Star Wars was George Lucas wanting to capture that feeling of walking into a weekend serial with a story already in progress and having to just figure it out, right? Of, oh, there's so much more happening. Go, Tracy.
Well, on that point, I feel like the biggest complaint about some of the other series, whether it was, you know, like Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett, was that there wasn't enough lightsabers. And then this one, there's lightsaber battle every single episode, and it's still not good enough for them. And it's just like, hey, it's not The Empire Strikes Back, I'm sorry. Nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. Mm-hmm. Just enjoy it.
For sure. And can I also say, like, when I hear people talk about pacing, I think part of me, I mean, Book of Boba Fett, I also felt like because of who that cast was, like, part of me was like, it felt like a indigenous Maori way of telling a story. I know that's not what Dave Filoni was doing, but part of me was like, there is breath between thoughts. There is. And so when I think about the way when we meet Obi-Wan in New Hope, it's like, he's not talking all the time. He's doing the wisdom thing. He's doing the I've lived a life that you have no idea about. And so for me, the pacing, I've also been curious about the pacing of this show because of how when women communicate with women or female identified folk communicate with each other, it's not always high speed, chatty like a chicken or like gossipy or whatever, but if you have history with somebody, if she's your master, if you were her apprentice, and there's this chasm of history and story, of course it's not going to be quippy and fast. And so part of me is also curious if some of the fandom is having a hard time with the story not being at the pace of a cis white hetero dude.
Interesting.
And like, or Gilmore Girls.
Or Gilmore Girls, exactly. Or Beverly Hills 90210. You know,
well, you
whatever.
know, I mean, this is the other thing too. I think it's also the growing pains as storytelling has evolved, right? Then this is an ongoing conversation that I've been having with Benja, right? Of and you know, like storytelling has evolved in ways that maybe storytelling doesn't even want to, right? Part of this whole pacing issue that keeps coming up is because people are now wanting these long form, long standing, you know, arcs where things are connected or one thing leads to the next, at which point it's like, of course, your episode 5, your episode 4, your middle episodes are going to be your strongest episodes, because that is the point in the story structure when all of your climaxes, your first couple episodes are going to be establishing character and world. It's going to feel slower because you're just establishing characters. And I mean, you know, that's
But those middle episodes have more impact because you set it up.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
But and it's also funny because I was just talking to someone Allison and I both know. I won't mention her name, but you know, she even talked about, you know, she is a writer, and I bumped into her on the picket lines, and she was talking about how showrunners or producers basically tell her to revise scripts because they're like, no, you can't do this. This isn't going to work. You have to put the big thing at the front of, or at the end of the episode, so it can tease for the next episode. And she's like, but
why?
Like storytelling is you put like the big thing that happens at the very beginning of the episode, which draws you into want to watch more. And of course, their priorities are all backwards now, because to them it's about not watching this episode, you're already here. It's about tuning in next week or binge to the next one. So it is kind of working against like traditional or how writers of a certain generation have been trained, right, to meet the needs that the market is, you know, I don't know, market researching.
For sure, which one could say there's a parallel there between the journey. I'm going to use this as the transition. The journey between Ahsoka coming into the Jedi Order at a time when they were not peacekeepers, but they were soldiers.
Yeah.
And that beautiful speech we get from Anakin about, I'm really sorry, when I was a Padawan, we were peacekeepers. Now that you're a Padawan, we're soldiers. So I have to teach you different skills so you literally will survive.
Yeah.
And because for folks who are in the lore and understand about Order 66, it's like, yeah, I mean, thank goodness he prepared her in the ways that he did, because she literally would not, I mean, that and the you know, Ezra pulling her out of the world between worlds, but she wouldn't be alive if she was not, like, as our storytelling is evolving, as our modalities, you know, for people who are force sensitive are evolving, the times are calling for you to use those skills in a different way. Is one of the things that I feel like the story is also offering us.
So I love that you brought this up, because this is the stuff that really I was really digging in on, is kind of the philosophical thematics of what is this whole journey for her, right? And we are starting to get like into the motivations of where Ahsoka is, right? I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? Where I feel almost like the first couple episodes for this being the Ahsoka show have been, you know, establishing more of the character arc of, you know, her relationship with Sabine, where Sabine is, right? We had the big, like, you know, discovery bomb that Sabine's family was killed in the Siege of Mandalore and the Night of Thousand Tears, and now we know, like, there's probably a little bit of blame, which is what has created that division. And of course, now putting it into this context of Ahsoka carries so much guilt for everyone who has ever died under her command, even going back to when she was a 14-year-old, right? And when
that's
you
a
put
lot
that,
on a 14-year-old.
it's a lot, and it's a lot on a 47-year-old too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the really fascinating thing, right? Of if the last time that we saw her in the timeline was right after she duels Vader at the Sith Temple in season 3 of Rebels, right? Then she has been dealing with the fact that her master, her teacher, the person that she looked up to, and so passionately and vehemently defended became the most evil mass murderer space Nazi in the history of the galaxy, right? And of course that has weighed on her in terms of who is she if she was trained by a warrior, and if that's where being a warrior and being a fighter leads, what does she have to offer, right? I mean, this is even reflected. She has that bit of dialogue with Anakin as she's reflecting on this, and of course it's 47-year-old Ahsoka in the body of what's her name, Amanda Greenblatt, Ariana Greenblatt, who does a fantastic job, by the way. Really great. But her line, is this all I have to pass on to my own Padawan someday, right? And that's where we kind of see, okay, this is the angst that she's been holding on to, why she won't train Grogu, why she walked away from Sabine, is her fear of how much death and destruction she bestows on those that she, like that's where her self-isolation comes, right? Because I mean, you can see that stoicism is also maybe a hint of loneliness and a bit of fear of connect. I mean, she's got commitment issues, basically, right?
Well, and that's why Balin said, I mean, that's what ultimately sends her into this world between worlds, right? Is Balin says to her, you are from a legacy of death and war and destruction. That whole lightsaber battle right there in the stones is him pulling out all of her fear, all of her anger. And so
psychological warfare.
For sure. I just want to hop back really fast to the child soldier piece, and just, I think in Clone Wars and animation, I get that she's little, but I think to see it in live action, and then to see all of the, like that beautiful scene where she's next to the soldier who's got his face covered, and it's gonna be Rex's face, it's all their faces, right? And so just to see that context and be like, yeah, dude, at 14, like and then just, I've been in conversations with some friends about what it means to be the oldest daughter sometimes, and just those moments when, and you don't have to be the oldest daughter, but when you're thrust into an adult situation that you are not prepared for. And then to understand, yes, she said, and we finally get to hear her say, like, but all these lives, like, I definitely was like, oh, she's referring to her first mission, all these lives that are lost. And Anakin's just like, look, we got to get up, we got to keep moving, we have to learn, you have to but just watching him actually show her the way that he knows how to process death, to show her the way he knows how to process loss, it feels like, I'm curious if he ever said that, like, we don't get to see that kind of dialogue in Clone Wars series because of the audience it's made for. And so just honoring, like, actually, I just saw Blue Beetle last night, and so not to jump franchises, but there was an interesting moment in that movie where I was like, wow, child soldier stuff, real. And like, how do we, and then just soldiers and veterans in general, like, that trauma doesn't go away, the things you have seen, the people you have lost, the physical injury to your body and your state of being,
and your humanity too,
so just holding
what you got,
that.
Tracy?
Well, I also thought it was interesting because in the Clone Wars, her and Anakin joke a lot on the battlefield. And in the live action, it's her 47-year-old mind and a 14-year-old body who already has been through all of this and been through so much more. And when he tries to joke with her, she doesn't find it funny anymore. Right. Yeah. And he doesn't quite understand, like, what do you mean? I'm making a joke. This is what we do. And she's just like, what is this, what is my legacy here? So I just thought that was interesting.
So this is where I get to, I just found it so interesting that the recurring question, he goes, well, okay, so he starts off with, I'm here to finish your training, and she's like, fine, okay, what's the lesson? And he says, live or die. And it's set up as basically him challenging her, and we get to see the lightsaber battle. And of course, it's Anakin, so spinning is a good trick, and he does his little lightsaber spinnies, which is the little Easter egg. But that idea of live or die, right? And even how that is applied to their time on the battlefield, right? Of either the enemy forces are coming, and what if I don't want to fight anymore? And he says, then you'll die. And it's very matter of fact. And I spent a lot of time trying to think about this, right, in terms of how does this bring her to the transition of from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White here, right? And I realized it's like, oh, this is the same recurring theme throughout all of Star Wars. And yes, the sequel trilogy, which people are gonna complain about, but I mean, it was there in the Last Jedi. It was also the same lesson from Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. It is the do or do not. There is no try. There is no in between. Is that there is balance and there's imbalance. It's not that there is a dark and light and you find a balance in between. It's that balance is the light. It is dealing with your reality and your situation, right?
It's the Joseph Campbell hero's journey.
It is. Right? It absolutely
circle,
is.
Right? And it's interesting because now that you said that, in Empire Strikes Back, Luke goes to that. You go in Joseph Campbell's circle, right? You go into the cave, right?
Mm-hmm.
The hero goes into the cave. So in Empire Strikes Back, he literally goes into a cave and he sees Vader. He confronts Vader. So Ahsoka is now confronting Vader, right? In her hero's journey, going into the cave, and she's coming out of that. So you're right. It's all through that. It's like that's the hero's journey. It's all through, and that's essentially why Star Wars is so powerful, is because it follows that Joseph Campbell hero's journey of like all mythological story, all amazing myths traverse, right?
Mm-hmm. And to bring it into the sequel trilogy, again, not my favorite movies, but I love this moment where Kelly Marie Tran says, you destroy what you hate or you save what you love, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that idea of, do you act in hate or do you act in love, right? And for Ahsoka right now, this whole stoic thing is her unwilling to connect, her unwillingness to commit to that, right? Acting dispassionately is giving up in this kind of interpretation. And you cannot truly act on behalf of the light without committing to the light or committing to the thing. So that's where we get this transition, right? Is her fear that her fighting leads her to the darkness. Mm-hmm. And she has her moment where she's dueling with Anakin, she bests him, and you get that red flash in her eyes, and it is chilling. Honestly, the makeup work on Hayden Christensen too, and honestly, his performance too, where you can just see not even just the rage, but the submission to giving up on his face as he is becomes Vader with the face in that moment, right? And she has that one flash where she thinks about taking him out, and then she drops the lightsaber, and it is such a Lucas Filoni Campbell moment that pays off the same important central theme of Star Wars.
And I feel like I'm sure I will remember when I go see the 6, 7, and 8, but or 7, 8, 9. I don't remember. I remember Luke making the choice to say, I will not fight you, Father. Right. Yeah. And so,
which is echoed.
Yeah.
Right. Here with Ahsoka, I guess Rey says it to Kylo, right? She said, I'm not going to fight you, boo. Like, brother, whoever you are. But to see her literally make the choice in a series, in a fandom where I feel like it's all about the lightsabers and the spaceships at times, it was super powerful to see her make the choice not to go to the sword, especially because the choice was always presented as one or the other. You either live or die. You either fight or die. And for her to find an additional place to say, no, it's not that. It's I'm choosing to live by choosing not to fight. Like
Yep.
the nonviolent path is a path of legitimate resistance.
Yeah. Well, and that ultimately, when she fights not to kill or to hurt, but she fights for to save or to
Yeah.
preserve, right? I mean, that's the key thing there, right? I mean, it's the same thing, you know, we have a lot of debate over our justice system. Is it a justice system that is meant to find justice? Because justice would be, you know,
Yeah.
you correct a wrong, not you punish the guilty,
Right.
right?
Right.
Correcting the wrong means, you know,
Right.
getting the guilty to you know, move on or become better, right?
Right. Is it a punitive justice system
Thank
or
you.
a restorative justice system, right?
Right. Yeah.
And oftentimes we're presented with punitive justice because that's a hard narrative that exists in the, you know, in the Puritan ideology of the United States underground,
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah. Can we talk about something like fun and floaty and like I'm really curious about everybody's reaction to the Purgles and like I haven't had to talk to you.
Pinocchio.
Sure. But to see all the articulation in the effects, and then to see, I was surprised Ahsoka didn't talk to the eye, that she went to the mouth and the chin.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like,
it also makes you wonder. It's like, so what does the baleen do? Because, like, I mean, we know these things
Space
eat gas.
debris, so it doesn't
Yeah,
get stuck in their teeth.
Oh, okay, sure, okay. I mean, because they eat gas, right? They
Yeah,
go
for
into
sure.
the nebulas
For
and they
sure.
eat the clouds, and then, you know.
And maybe in the clouds are those I don't know what they're called, but the like things that look like wombats or like the flying birds that came out
Yeah.
of the other big giant space.
That's right, in the slug.
Yeah.
Yes. Tracy, I'm curious, like, how are you feeling about the Purgles? Like, did they give you all the feelies? Like,
Oh no.
oh no, she's like ready to tell us.
She's got her fist up. She's like, ah.
Baby.
You know,
Okay,
I mean,
can I say this thing that
for it.
I was surprised? Did you notice that when the Purgle went by the ghost, Jason was sitting in the co-pilot seat, and I really wanted him to have an eye contact to eye contact moment
Yeah.
with one of the which is so like I saw somebody in the chat, they haven't seen Rebels yet. Like, oh, what a gift Rebels is. Like so many fun things to discover in Rebels, right? But that Ezra eye to eye connection with the Purgle,
Sure.
so I realized, I wanted that, but I was like, but this is also a new way for a new group of people to meet the Purgle.
Okay, Tracy, you're
Okay.
back. While your
I'm
internet's
sorry.
there.
It keeps freezing and kicking me out. I'm so sorry. I heard Tracy, I'm curious, and then it went and I was like, no.
Tell us about your thoughts on the
no, what's
Purgle. How are you
happening?
feeling? How are you feeling about the Purgle?
Ah!
Okay. There are some yeah.
So yeah, I do, yeah, and that the whole thing with Jason is interesting too, right? I mean, kind of using him as a way to bridge the Force, that he's sensing, you know, he could be reading or feeling Ahsoka's thoughts, or he could be, you know, having a peek into the world between worlds. It is just really fascinating watching Mama Hera, you know, kind of, you can see how scary it is for her, because ultimately the path to the Force has, you know, taken away both her would-be husband and her surrogate son, right?
And
So-
now her surrogate daughter, right?
Yeah.
Now Sabine is gone. So where's my daughter? Where's my sister daughter?
Yeah.
You know, daughter sister.
Other
sure.
things here. Oh yeah, and the other just cool thing with, like, of course, you know, getting this transition of Ahsoka now donning the white robes, right? Changing her headband,
For sure.
and kind of paying off that teaser at the end of on the finale of Rebels 2 of Ahsoka the White.
For sure. And I really want to just shout out the costume designer, Shauna Trippick, because seeing Ahsoka the White in this sweater that felt very functional. I mean, I know that Disney can be about merchandise. I want to buy this. I want to buy this hoodie, asymmetrical sweater, so that I can have my arm out. Because as a person who's growing older, it's just you get sweaty and hot sometimes for no reason.
Also, so comfy.
So comfy and
It
warm.
looks
Okay,
like, yeah.
for sure. Tracy,
Try again. Third time's a charm.
I think I have to ban everybody in my house from using anything that that uses Wi-Fi while I'm doing this show, because this is like, you guys, it's been a day.
Yeah.
This hasn't been any better. It just keeps going. I'm sorry, Alice.
That's okay.
Dayla, what did you want to ask me about?
I honor your journey, Tracy the White.
Anyway.
Last thoughts on the Purgle. Could I ask you? Can we get there?
Oh, okay. Yes. Hopefully I don't freeze again. You guys are coming in very crystal clear now. I'm loving it. Okay.
Oh, good.
Well, my only note that I wrote while I was watching it was Purgles and 3 exclamation point and then beautiful segment. And then Ahsoka Gandalf style.
Gandalf style.
Yeah.
You shall not pass.
But right before that happened, I thought it was really interesting that we got to see her without her headband, and where her face, where it becomes like goes from orange to white. And it was truly like an unmasking, right? Yeah. And it was what she needed to be able to get out there and talk to those Purgles, and then to sit in that cockpit with Hugh Yang and him say, "Where do you think we're going?" And she's like, "I don't know, but it's better than not going."
Yeah.
Right. And she was so happy and she was so at peace because she just had faith that they were going to take her where she needed to go.
Yeah.
Yes. And to see, I totally agree. The lightness in her, I feel like she's now the lighter, brighter version of what people might want. Like, it just reminds me of those moments where it's like, how come you're not smiling? Like as a woman being told, like, how come you're not smiling right now? It's better when you smile. It's like, but it wasn't just seeing her smile. It was also witnessing this journey to feel her, to let her put down the things she didn't need anymore.
I think, also, I mean, honestly, just because I have a big, famous person crush on Rosario Dawson.
Get in line, buddy.
It's also just letting Rosario bring a little bit more of herself and her own just kind of energy to Ahsoka as well, because I get that vibe from her. So this is another really cool thing, and this was something that was it you who pointed this out, that this might be the first time also we get to hear Ahsoka refer to the Jedi in a positive light, right? When she's talking to Jason.
For sure. We get that really awesome moment between Jason and Hu Yang where they're trying to like send him off so they can have the convo, right? And she's like, "Have you ever seen a Jedi ship before?" And I wondered when we got to see the training closet with all the implements, if that was Hu Yang's stuff left over. Like, did he have his box from the Jedi Academy where he needed to bring all his tools of how to do the work? Or is this something that Ahsoka has been cultivating over time because of her path back to
in his own little chest compartment?
For sure. Hurry, take my box.
I also, it was great fun, that little bit of like, do you have a lightsaber? Yes. Can you teach me how to make one? No.
For sure. And just feeling the old. I think my last question is, does Jason grow up to go to Luke Skywalker's academy?
I hope not. Because yikes. Hopefully, like, Ahsoka has her own little, private tutor ship with Grogu and Sabine, and or I mean, I don't know. I mean, the other thing is too, right? I mean, we already have the interesting thematic thing of the overarching thing with the Mandalorian and all that, is we have Sabine, the Mandalorian, training to be a Jedi, and then we have Grogu, the little Jedi, training to be a Mandalorian, which is a great little like, oh look, George Lucas, it's like poetry, it rhymes.
Well, and they've always been such enemies. You know, these are the links that are gonna stop that. You know, that are gonna break that cycle.
Sure. Well, and you know, of course, we also have been hearing the idea that this Ahsoka series is happening concurrently with Mando season 3. And if you recall, I believe it was episode 2 where Grogu is in the hyperspace lane when in the Naboo starfighter, and he looks up and you can see a
The
Purgle,
stars.
in the hyperspace tube.
Yes.
And so that's the question there of, is he sensing Ahsoka? And this is like concurrent with that. Yeah. Which is like, oh, that's interesting, right? Because also we do remember at the end of season 3, that's also when we see the Shadow Council. We just had an episode of the Shadow Warrior, but the Shadow Council of the Imperial Remnant, where they are all discussing, you know, Captain Pelayon is saying, you know, Grand Admiral Thrawn will herald the return of the Imperial military. Maybe Thrawn's already back. Maybe he's, you know, in the shadows behind Pelion in that scene, and we're about to see that play out from a different perspective.
For sure, and we certainly see the senators have their little parallel light council, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
And then all the disbelievers who I'm like, oh, you're an Imperial, you know, I have my opinion. Tracy,
So-
I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
We do.
No, before, I know we have to get to crosstalk, but I have so many more things that we could talk about because this episode had so much. But I just want to make sure we don't skip over the fact that Hera had a little picture of Kanan on her dashboard.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. Okay, I'm done. Scene.
All right. So there's definitely more stuff we would love to talk about, but we got to move on to crosstalk. So I'm going to save a question that I have that was talking about this show for when our friends from Geek Beast get here. So are they ready? Do we have them? There they are. Hey.
Oh wait, we have a part of you. Johnny, where are you?
I don't know. He might have dipped out for a second.
No, I see his shoulder. I see his
He's
shoulder.
hiding.
I do see.
And I
his
see his
shoulder.
I see his headphone. Johnny, come back.
I'm coming.
Oh.
Yeah,
Johnny,
he has
come
to
back.
fix his computer.
Hey!
It's
As
the
much as I
soft-
love Black Panther, it's just really nice to see your face.
I appreciate it's the software.
I
For,
just playing the software, you guys.
Welcome to my world, Johnny. Welcome to my world.
I switch a scene, it goes back to like the webcam that doesn't have the software. So then I have to go in and hit the button to update the software for it to all coalesce.
So my question for you guys. So okay, have you guys been watching Ahsoka? Are you
I
caught
have
up?
not.
I
have
am up on
not.
episode 4. I've not seen episode
Aw.
5.
Okay.
You gotta ask the
so-
Star Tours question then.
Well, okay, so we're not going to talk about anything specific in this episode, but so one thing that we have been seeing across these various Mandoverse shows is the ways in which the Republic, the government of the Republic, is failing. And I know there's been a lot of people kind of frustrated of watching how much the Republic sucks.
Sounds like a republic.
Yeah.
How do
I'm
you
gonna
guys feel about that?
I'm gonna let you ask your question.
Well, I mean, so how do you guys feel about the Republic sucking so much? Is it unrealistic? Is it realistic?
They've always sucked.
Yeah.
That's why they
Chuck
were
hasn't even
easily
seen.
taken over. They've always sucked. The war was won by a group of rebels.
Right.
They were like, we're tired of this shit. That doesn't mean that they can now govern.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it too. The same
Yeah.
way. It's like they've always tried to run it as a republic when the Republicans control and everybody had different opinions and everybody had their own agendas. Kind of reminds me of a government that I know very.
No, right? Like,
Yeah.
we know that like there were these special interest group.
Yeah.
Remember, the Civil War was started from special interest group. The separatists wanted to make more money. They were the business people and the commerce people, and
Huh.
they felt like they weren't getting a better deal.
Funny that. That's so weird. It's weird how that worked out.
So I was like,
sure.
yeah, the Republicans been messed up for a long, long time.
Yeah. I don't
You know,
know.
it's also interesting too, right? I mean, I think there's also a lot of obviously, because it's the most recent kind of major world conflict, like people kind of associate some of the stuff that we see in Star Wars as being analogs or based on or inspired by World War II, right?
Yes.
But when you think of things in the terms of how things are now presented, it's like World War II only happened, what, 20 years after World War One,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I
After
mean,
the war to end all wars. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
and it was again Germany, different leadership, but I mean certainly the creation of the Nazi Party was in part to how the Germans were managed after World War One,
Mhm.
and that's the same theme we're seeing play out with that Imperial remnant, with what's his name, Dr. Pershing's, right? Of how do they try to integrate them into society and whether they fail or succeed.
Yeah. People care to forget the Nazi Party was the party of science.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they had all the science of the world of Germany backing them, and like, yeah, we're the nerds. And then Hitler came along and said, "Hey, I can help you nerds out. Y'all
Yeah.
let me be the guy, and I'll give you everything you ever wanted."
And like,
Mhm.
not everybody was suffering under the empire, right? So it's like
Right.
one day I go into work and I'm like, all these crazy rebels, they always blowing up stuff. And then it's like, no, the same rebels that were blowing up stuff are now in charge. Like, what happened to my pension? What happened to my 401k? My kids in college. Like, what's going on here? And I gotta, integrate with these people who don't like me because they don't trust me because I used to work with the old regime. Like, no, I'm just trying to earn a paycheck. And so it's like, yeah, so you start to think they're not going to just transfer over to the Republic. They're like, hey, I was doing all right. Emperor Palpatine, when he was in charge, my stock portfolio was up. The kids was in school. My wife was giving me kisses and stuff. So I was like, yeah. And Rebels,
For sure.
these
And in
Rebels
episode
came and messed all of that up.
And I
with
was
the
working on
Space
this
Wizard.
big project, building
For
this
sure.
Yeah.
I got that thing.
project.
Yeah.
Well, and we saw it in episode 4, right? Like Hera confronts one of the senators, Rondo, about like you.
Oh, careful. Chuck hasn't
All
seen it.
right. Chuck hasn't seen it yet. So-
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were
Chuck has to watch it for binge worthy. No, it's
I
okay.
know it.
I'm,
I'm the fool that has not
I'm
watched
broadening.
any of the episodes.
I'm broadening the
I
themes because
see.
the themes
I
are consistent across the Star Wars shows.
They are.
Well,
They
then,
are.
okay, I have
Possibly.
something. I can talk about something that's not about the content.
Yeah.
I heard recently that George Lucas also talked about how part of the Rebels is based on the Viet Cong and the
Yeah.
Vietnam War. So it's not just parallels to World War II, but as we look at these rebellions, as we think about those things, so it just kind of makes me also think about like, yeah, if you spent your whole life trying to take down an imperialist structure, what is, going back to our conversation about punitive justice versus restorative justice, are we just punishing the people who are punishing us, and are we just repeating the punishment,
Yeah.
or are we
Yeah.
actually building a new
And what
thing?
lessons are learned?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
think about it, like you just graduated from school from Corsica, you get a job working on this special project, it's the Death Star. They pay like $45 an hour. You going out there, you leave your family, you sending your checks back.
Never mind that it's prisoners building the parts, right?
Yeah, never mind.
I'm not a prisoner.
It's super efficient. What?
And then you blow
I got the Death Star 15 next year.
Right. I got 15 years. I'm gonna retire with a good pension, all those things. And these rebels just come blow it up. So
Okay, Stardust for sure.
It's
Project
funny
Stardust.
because in that universe, there's never not a period of not war.
Yeah.
yeah.
And you think of how it parallels our lives. We never had a period without war.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why you're always going to have those remnants of like the empire there. Like because some people did benefit from the empire.
It's interesting as to who became rebel scum.
Right.
Yeah.
For this for rebel scum at one point, Then the rebellion became rebel scum
Right.
when the empire was built.
That's why we need to take a page from Star Trek. Just have one World War III, and we'll just
End it
start
all.
over
Get
again
it out of
from
your
scratch.
system.
All out, right?
Right. But even
Nope.
in Star Trek, nope, because there's all the other things.
That's true.
Born
Oh,
born to deal with. We have the
that's right.
The Born, the Borg, the Klingons, the Romulans. Yeah, so the Romulans and the whatchamacallits, they got their own Civil War. The Spock people, they have their
Vulcans?
own,
Yeah, that's right.
DMA.
Because they split off from
yeah, they
the
split off. They
Romulans.
have their own Civil War.
Mhm.
Well, and now we got some like badass Gorn too.
Yeah.
Like really badass Gorn.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I always have to bring up Star Trek.
So,
Guys
Chuck-
split off.
so what are you guys covering today?
Oh, that's interesting. I just actually literally opened up the news. Let me dig.
I did too.
We're actually talking about Baldur's Gate is doing a one-shot D&D. The voice actors of Baldur's Gate 3. And I heard that's an amazingly voice acted game. They say it's like Dungeons and Dragons. This is how you want Dungeons and Dragons to be a video game. It's perfect.
Oh.
So they're doing a one-shot, like Critical Role.
Very
We
cool.
gotta get a Dungeons and Dragons game going on at the Geekish Network. We could
Yeah.
do like, we do like binge worthy versus Pod Squadron.
Can we get a table like the one Jason Momoa bought?
Y'all,
The table is amazing.
That's a different level, yeah.
we gotta
I don't know, Rodney, Chuck, what's in the budget for?
in the Dungeons and Dragons. The My Little Pony has a second set of cards. I'm actually in the process of ordering it right now.
Oh, no way.
Dragon card.
I've been talking about voice acting. I've been hearing so much buzz about Starfield. Like there are like it seems like almost every Asian voice actor in LA is on this freaking game.
Is Jennifer on it?
I don't think Jen is. But like,
Oh, she just got some big new project.
yeah,
I was thinking maybe that was it.
She's just opened to play actually this weekend, immersive play.
Oh, ooh,
Yeah.
That's fun.
But anyways, so if you want to hear more about Baldur's Gate and what's going on with Geek Beast, stick around for that. We're gonna Week Beast. We're gonna wrap this up. So please join us next week. We're gonna continue our coverage of Ahsoka on episode 6, which of course comes out tomorrow. And okay, I can't say anything because they haven't seen it yet. But I'm very much looking forward. Hopefully, we learn more about the villains.
Hey, I'm ready for Thrawn to come back. That's my guy. That's my man.
I'm hoping we get some proper Thrawn, right? Like we've got 3 episodes left. We got to get some proper Thrawn, not just show up at the end and go, "I'm here." Like he's got
and some proper Rex, not just voice behind the helmet.
Yeah, I hope so. Maybe Zeb too, right? Because Zeb is the only main Rebels character that hasn't made an appearance yet
in this series, but we did
see
see
him
in Mandalorian at the Delphi base where we saw.
That's right.
Tova.
That's right.
Tiva.
So it'll be interesting.
We know what Tova, Tiva, Tiva, Teva. I feel like we've pronounced
Mr.
it everywhere.
Kim.
like the camping sandals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, of course, come back and see us next Monday. We'll be back for that. Do you cosplay? Do you make fan films or build droids, build models, sell stuff on Etsy? Show us all how Star Wars has inspired you, and we just might feature you on the show. Also, thank you for joining us here on the Geekish Network. Please follow the Geekish Network on YouTube and Facebook. Subscribe to the channel, and thank you for joining us here on Monday nights. Check out the schedules for all the other great shows. Also, stick around for Geek Beast coming up next. And thanks on the flight deck to Rodney. Yay. And we are the Pod Squadron. Please check out all of our content on podsquadron.com. Like and subscribe. Follow us on X. I hate that. Or Threads. How about follow us on Threads? And
Yay!
Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. For podcast subscriptions, you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. I am the Chinese Pirate at ChinesePirate_ on all platforms.
I am Tracy, the hot nerd girl, and it's so much fun to watch you do these tongue twisters every week. I feel like it's like the best vocal exercises ever. Hot nerd girl on all the things, whatever.
And I am Picks by Dayla only on the Insta right now, but maybe Threads soon.
Okay.
Do it.
And all wings return to base, course laid in, and prepare to make the jump to light speed on my mark. And remember, the truths we cling to depend on our own point of view. Only the Sith deal in absolutes.
I have to pee.
Yay, tradition.